And you're thinking, I came here to have the experience of a startup. Congratulations. You are having the experience of being on a startup. That's what it's like. Long nights, lots of work with your team, not a lot of clarity about where you're going or if this thing that you're building is even going to work or even be finished. That's what it means. That's what it's like. And people who succeed in that world, people who succeed in the leadership field, entrepreneurial field, are those that learn how to reframe. Instead of the I'm tired experience, the I'm curious experience, the I wonder what's going to happen, I wonder what I can learn. It's all about reframing, especially when things get difficult and challenging. How can you lift up out of that experience and look for something else? Right now, you've been doing a lot of work, working in your teams, a lot of exploration, a lot of talking with one another about this thing that you are building. And now we're going to add another aspect, because there is that work in a startup. There is the building the thing that you hope to sell, but guess what else there is? There is the talking about the work that you're doing to others. And that is absolutely critical. And think of those as two different trains that must be running at all times. They're not separate. There's connective tissue between the two, but there's a different feel to them. There's the work, and there's the talking about the work. This is work that I had an experience with myself when I became a playwright, and I traveled the world with my play. I took it to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe in Scotland, which is the largest arts festival in the world. So for years, I had been writing the play, rehearsing the play, collaborating on the play, doing the work on the ground. But then came this radical shift that I had to go through, which is marketing the play. And that's a different experience. Talking about your baby, talking about your project, your passion, but making sense of it to other people. Because without that, things don't really get off the ground. So that's the work we're going to do now. Would that be useful or a waste of time? Fantastic. This is wonderful news. So this is what we're going to do initially. We need to get all of the stuff that's in your minds and get it out in the open so that we can then craft it. More importantly, we need to, as Mr. Halstead said, distill it, shave it down, because it needs to be lighter in order for us to hand it over to other people, and it also needs to be lighter in order for us to be clear on what it is that we're actually doing. So in a moment, you're going to get with your groups in this room with as little moving around as possible, and we're going to have an experience where you're going to talk about the what of your project, meaning what the heck are we doing? What are we doing? What are we building? What is it? Now is the phase, this first phase, to just blurt it all out. What's on your mind? What's in your thoughts? What are all the possibilities of what you have been working on? That's it. That is the idea here. That it's when you are down in the weeds of the what, of doing the work, thinking about it, and the tools and the features, it's hard to see it. And it's very easy for people to have different interpretations about what you're doing. Did anyone have that experience where someone said something, you're like, whoa, I didn't know we were doing that. Good, now is a good time to find this out. It's always good to check in. What else? How about, let's hear from this group over here. What was that experience like?
We were kind of doing that already in our game, but
great.
It kind of it was like a check-in.
Great.
It's hard to keep talking about it and say new and useful things for 45 seconds.
Great, that's good news. That means you're a few paces ahead. Fantastic. Now, brief discussion with your group. If you had to pull out one thing, one brief sentence about what it is that you're doing, and you're going to share that with the rest of the group. Brief 1-minute discussion with your group. What is like the flag that you were waving? What is the handle into the what of your project? Because you're going to share that one sentence with the rest of the group, and we're going to check back in. Please do that now. 1.5 minute discussion with your group. Beautiful, nice, simple, brief. I could probably repeat back to you, maybe not verbatim, word for word, but I can grab onto it. As someone who is not familiar with your work, I know a little bit about the what of what you're doing. Here's the thing. You're going to be speaking with VC venture capitalists, right? Or people playing the role of venture capitalists. What would you guess is the single most common question VCs are thinking during pitches? Why? Also known as, for the more cynical, so what? So imagine what's that?
There's the what and the so what.
There's the what and the so what. And so you want to make sure that you always are able to answer the so what, and here is how. So again, we said that you're down on the ground doing the work. You're in the weeds. Where are the VCs? They're up in the clouds. They like visionary. They like elevation. They like to know what things are really all about. So now, using the content that you just revised and came up with, think of that as clay, and you want to get rid of some of the clay and answer the question, the work that we're doing, what is it really all about? What is it really all about at an elevated level? So for example, let's say, who connects the recycling? Yes, that's yours? So say what you said to us one more time, if you would offer that to the room, and fill the space with your voice, if you would.
Okay, we are a marketplace that collects and collects waste and sorts it on our website to sell it to repurposing companies so they can use it for another purpose.
Nice, fantastic. This is the business transaction of the what of that they're doing. But help them out. They're down in the weeds. You haven't been down in the weeds with them. What is it really all about? What are we talking about here? What is the higher topic?
Recycling.
Reducing waste. The question that we ask in order to get to the higher ground is, well, what is recycling really all about at a higher level? It's not about the transaction of driving this stuff over here and over here. Kayla,
Clearing our island.
keep going.
Oh, to like make it a better place for like future generations and like kind of reverse the negative effects we've already put on it.
Great. This is what it's really all about on a global scale. And then there are other aspects. I believe Mr. Shorn shared with me that you're talking about sharing repurposed material with artists, potentially, or things like that. Then there's what it's really all about to the artists. It depends on which demographic you're talking about. So now, brief discussion with your group last time. Answer this question. What is it really all about? So for the website, it's so specific. A website is never just a website. That's just what? A collection of zeros and ones in space, in virtual space. What does a website do? What is it doing? Who is it for? So brief discussion, 1 minute and 20 seconds. The work that you're doing, what is it really all about? Please do that now. So, what changed? What appeared? What was new in that discussion than the previous? Kayla.
So in the first one, we were talking about like things we were doing and like what we were producing, and then now we're talking about like why it matters, kind of.
Yes, not kind of.
Or
Why it matters.
Why it matters.
That's right. So good. Let's capture this, and then we'll come to Owen and Amir in just a second. So you went from talking about what you're producing to why it matters, and I would say to what you're actually providing. What we're talking about is relevance. How do you make the work that you're doing relevant? For whom? For anyone who it might be relevant for. And articulating all the people for whom your work is relevant, and then tying it to a nice tight business case for the VCs. That's part of making a pitch. Oh, and you had a thought.
It brings upon what is this really all about, brings upon a more emotional aspect to it.
Huge. Here's a question. It's a loaded question. Do people make decisions based solely on what they know? What do people make decisions on? Their emotions. And until you tap into the emotional experience, you're not tapping into what drives people's decisions. So we're going to look, I'll be listening for and trying to pull out where is the emotion. So for example, it's Mr. Lomax, yes? David's last name is Lomax? Clark. Don't know where Lomax came from. Mr. Clark was telling me a story about the 30 millimeter telescope up at the top of Nalukai, is that it? And that's an emotionally charged situation for different people, yes? For those who live here and call that place a spiritual home, what are the emotions of that experience? Pua. What are the emotions that are at play for people who live here and are watching people come in and excavate something? The situation is most certainly invasive. What is the emotion that situation evokes? Yeah, anger. And understanding the emotional experience that people are having is crucial to being able to articulate the why it matters. What is the emotion of the people who want the telescope up there? Sorry? Science is not an emotion, but what is their emotional connection to it, Dylan? Good, not an emotion. What is the but curiosity? So for those of you who have a passion for science, what is your emotional connection to it? You're inspired. Is that what you said? Wonder, inspired, excitement, passion. These are emotions, and we need to. If you're going to be effective in front of a room, you need to know how to tap into people's emotional experiences. What was I talking about at the beginning of when I spoke? If you can remember that long ago, it was almost a half hour now.
It was a different eon.
It was a long while ago. Anyone remember what I spoke about? Kaylee. And how did I get to that? I talked about your situation. Feeling tired. That's an emotional experience. Frustrated. You might be frustrated because things are changing all the time. Good. Amir, you had a thought as well. No, okay, it's gone. We've moved on. We've moved on from that. Okay, let's do this. Now we're going to take that work a step farther. You're going to have a discussion with your group, and you're going to quickly put a new presentation together, 40 seconds. You're going to elect one person in the group who feels that they have a good understanding of the why it matters and maybe even the emotional experience of the end user, an investor, a VC. And you're going to speak to the why it matters, what you're providing, and the emotional experience. So right now, in groups, you're going to elect.
So clarifying question, do you want them to specifically say these are the kinds of emotions we're trying to evoke? Or do you want what they say to evoke those emotions?
Let's see, good question. Let's start with naming them. Let's start with naming the emotions, and then we'll build from there. For those of you who feel like you have a good handle on this, and you want to actually discuss how they experience those emotions, that's available to you too. But naming the emotions is a good place to start. So again, you're electing one person. That person is going to come to the front of the room. They'll have 40, 45 seconds to talk about why the work that you're doing really matters, what it's providing, and the emotions that are connected to that. All right, whenever you're ready.
All right, so before I came to HPA, I've been at a school that was small and away, or not so much helpful in a way. I didn't know about these opportunities that we could have as students, and I feel like the program that we're trying to create, the organization we're trying to create, will give those students knowledge, will give the people that need knowledge, but they might not know it, opportunities for other people. Right there, I tried to explain how we want students to, how we're trying to welcome students into our, we don't want a company that necessarily forces students. We want them to feel welcomed, and I don't know what kind of emotion that is. Inspired maybe.
But how do you want the VCs to feel? We all just listen to you.
What do you want us to get from that personal story? What are the most?
Actually, we're gonna go there.
Sorry.
We're gonna go. No, it's all good. First of all, for me, what really works about this draft of this pitch is that I'm seeing his personal connection to it through an experience he had. So what the emotion for me that is evoked is that feeling of being isolated and not knowing, of being unaware and ignorant of what else is out there, and also being ignorant that I even have the need. Did anyone else have that experience? Beautiful. That's an asset. So next draft, we're gonna shape that and draw it out and make it, pump it up a little bit more so it's more of a story. Give me a hand.
Okay, so our site wants to kind of evoke more connection between people in the community. I mean, when was the last time like people actually read a newspaper or like knew about all the stuff that was happening? Probably never. So like we want people to be able to feel more connected with other people in their community, even online, without like losing that local sort of community sense that a lot of like the internet development has done away with.
Give him a hand. Good job, hang out up here. Good. So for me, what is really working and is the clay that we want to continue to sculpt and make more dramatic is this idea of pride in your community and connection within your community and the value of that. That's only a couple of the emotions that are at play here. So there's the balance of being informed, being an informed individual, but also feeling connected to where you are and where you grew up. Is that valid for your group's work?
Yeah.
You sure? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
All right, give me a hand.
Being Hawaiian and living on Hawaii, whether or not any one of us are Hawaiian, I personally feel really isolated. There's trash all around us. I feel like a lot of the older generations have left us a mess to clean up. And what we want to change in that is to clean it all up and better for other generations so they don't have to suffer with the waste in the landfill, and to just improve our culture on Hawaii Islands.
Nice. You trying to roll it? Hang on one sec. So for me, the emotions in here are, again, we're hearing local pride. What wasn't explicitly said, but what I'm hearing is just a care for the environment, a care for where you live, which again brings us down to pride and even honor and integrity. With a topic like this, especially when you could be pointing fingers like they left us this problem, especially since some of them might be in the room. You want to lean on the care and the pride a little bit more than on the risk. That's a balance we're going to look to shape as we continue to go. Okay? Give her a hand. Claps and say. What happens?
We've all been in a situation where classrooms feel like jail. Currently, 20% of our children, 20% of the population is children, and they're 100% of our future. So we have to give them the tools and the environment to free them up to provide that for us. We need to stop living in the past and taking things from the past if we're trying to plan for our future.
Nice. Give me a hand. Nice. Here, Isabel. Nice statistics. You put when he said we've all had the experience of where school feels like jail. Who did that resonate for? Truthfully. Okay. Good. Nice work. I feel like you got here and you stayed there right away, and the emotions. This is a good example of how the emotions are implicit. They're sometimes unspoken, but he evokes them by what he's talking about. So we're going to look for more of that. One tiny adjustment that I would give is that be careful of making absolutes, especially when you're pitching. We always all feel like this. A VC goes, I'd never feel like that. Many people who are VCs, they don't like to be told how they feel or what they've experienced. So there's ways of getting around
So
that.
I could just say many instead of we.
Exactly. You qualify. You say, so many Many of us might have had the experience. There's all sorts of ways of doing it. Nice work. Give them a hand.
So after college, the things that you're going to remember from your experience there are not going to be the homework assignments you had or the problem sets you were assigned or those essays you had to write. It's going to be the people that you met and the activities that you did and all of the wonderful memories that you made while you're there, which is why it's really important to foster a community and to create basically an experience where you're doing new things and you're making new friends and you're just trying new things. As someone who's grown up very much in this academic college world, because of my parents, I feel it's very important to give back to this community and to do everything that we can to make sure that college is a great experience.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Nice, logical mind, rhetorical at work. Just taking this by the hand, and you're doing a beautiful job of balancing the emotion and the argument. That's a good example of that. Yeah, cool. I can't wait to see where this one goes. My tiny thing for now is just fill the space. You have such a sharp mind. An audience loves to see that at play. Nice taking the stage too. Okay. What was that experience like? The speakers. Let me check in. Those of you who spoke. What did you get out of that?
Extremely nervous.
It's good data.
Was that more nervous? I mean, you guys have all done elevator pitches in front of speakers, so how is this different?
I feel like this was a bit harder than an elevator pitch because for that, once you have it memorized, it's just like a script that
Right.
you just do over and over.
You step into the elevator and whoever's there, they're getting it.
Yeah, so you kind of have to think about other ways to get it across.
This is a critical point that Avery's making here. Think of it like this. When it comes to emotions, again, this is so powerful. This is what drives human behavior, emotions. So once you, as a speaker, get in front of a room full of people, there's already the adrenaline of that, of just being in front of a room of people. But then once you start to bring out the emotional experience, the power can also make the adrenaline go even farther for you. But it's like surfing. You have to ride the wave, you have to use the power to go where you want to go as opposed to let it take you down. And that just takes practice. And what I know in 15 years of being a speech coach and being an executive coach is that anyone can learn how to do this. Anyone. So that's the work that we're going to continue to do over the next few days. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Good. We're going to have a brief.
Tying it back, if I can,
yes.
to when
Please.
Sidney Wicking came in and talked about the different levels of listening. Right, level 3 is what? What are we doing with level 3 listening? Space, what was that again? Global, right, the whole picture. And the thing to remember about trying to evoke emotion is that emotion is very personal, right? Everybody has a unique experience, and it is a lot easier to talk about the what and have that resonate with the broader group because that's the analytical side, right? Okay, what's your revenue plan? What's your business model? It is super critical when you're pitching to read the room if you're trying to evoke emotions.
This is a
right?
terrific point.
Because you have to, on the fly, maybe adjust, right? You have to be looking at those facial expressions, their posture, right? It's even more important when your goal is why, when your goal is emotion, than with what, right? It's much easier to get the what through and have people that are, okay, yeah, right? If you're trying to evoke emotions, you need to understand.
Here's the takeaway from this. People do not care about the what of what you do until you make them care. And talking about
Hook 'em.
you have to get them hooked. You have to give them an on road. All right, we're going to take a break.